Yeah, it starts. Okay. So, hello everyone. So we are in our new product talk after the summer season, and this time we have Carlo with us. Still, as other times, we would like to deep dive some product topics. We have gathered some questions, but of course, if you have any other questions throughout the session, please feel free to ask them. Don't be shy and show yourself that some of the interest in the product side. So I will leave Carlo first sometimes to present himself, just to share what he does, his career path, and then we dig into the questions. So the floor is yours.
Thanks, guys, and thanks everybody to ask me to be here. So where I have to start? My path started during the university. I was doing the computer science in Milan, and then together with other two colleagues, we started immediately try to put in practice what we were learning at that moment. So at the last year of the university, basically we launched in the market CityGlance. It was my first startup. Now I call it startup. At that point, I really didn't know what I was doing in reality because everything was new for me. But basically, it burned a social app to connect people during their commute everywhere in the world. So basically, finding people with the same interests, etc., during the commuting with subway, trains, etc., etc. But then after 1 year, more or less, turns into a dating app as usual. And I did that for 4 years. Let's say we run different. We got different investment. I found myself in a moment with a lot of money in my hands. Didn't know how to spend it, so I did a lot of mistake. But that experience for me was basically my best gym. I love call it like that. I went in San Francisco for months with Mind the Bridge. Then we got some money from Telecom Italia, different acceleration program. Then we got an investment from a company that was a leading company into the video games market. And then after 4 years, basically we failed. We weren't able to scale outside Italy. We just launched some city outside Italy, but basically all the mistake we did, you know, that sometimes you made some mistake that you can address during the path, order that are following you till the end. But I learned a lot. So luckily, I sold anyway the company at that point to the investor. And we start building inside their company, basically new unit for the first time for them, develop intellectual property in terms of games. So we launched different games into the market, mainly mobile games. And then after 2 years, I was in a situation where my basically co-founder became my bosses, and I was in the situation saying, okay, I'm not that kind of person that is delivering what they're asking, but I try to ask to the people hiring me the trust on me. So, and at that point, I decided to quit. Then I had a mission at that point. The mission was to understand better the reason why I failed with my startup. So I tried to enter in a startup that at that point were succeeding in the market. There was not in Italy too much, let's say, company in that situation. One of them, it was Musement. So I did all the steps and I entered inside Musement. And again, that was my second most important step in my career. Why? Simply because I follow all the possible steps with Musement, from the startup, then the scale up, then the acquisition from a giant in the tourism industry that happened in 2019 by TUI. And I was able to basically grow in all the different steps inside the product organization. So I started as a product manager, then senior product manager, then I became head of product, and now I'm leading the entire distribution piece of TUI here in Milan, with a team composed by product manager, product designer, product analyst, data analyst, etc., etc. That with an organization that Jasmine knows very well evolved in a different way based on the context, the moment, and the number of people and the needs. I also have another project right now that I'm running since 2 years, which is my company. It's Plentiness. It's a totally different thing. It's a company that is playing into the beauty market with a personalized service. And now I'm basically trying to balance my personal life with all the things I'm doing professionally, because it's becoming quite tough right now. That is me.
Thank you. So I will connect with part that you were saying, the distribution part. Just if you can explain a little bit how Musement is structured in terms of product teams, and which are the key roles inside each product team.
Yep. So today, as I said, we pass different moments and different reorganization. Jasmine, you know, more or less every 6 months we were talking about what we have to do, because we are growing and we have different needs, and the market and the context is changing. But actually right now we are applying a domain driven design model. So we try to tackle the customer journey in 4 main steps. The first one is the distribution piece. So everything related to what we are selling in different channels with different use case to different target customers. Then we have the offer domain. So basically everything related to the catalog of the product we are selling, from the moment we are integrating product or we are building product till the moment we are creating those products ready to be sold in the market. Then we have the customer domain. Customer domain is mainly driven the customer experience, so trying to find all the value proposition across all the domains to enable our customer to stay with us longer, instead of just apply as a shark in the market like booking.com. Whoever comes to my website, I just need to sell something. And then we have the fulfillment domain, because we are a big company that's trying to do everything, and this is a cons, in my opinion. But at the end, we are also operating everything. So the moment we are loading product, the moment we are selling product, the moment we are trying to get the customer with us for longer, until the moment we are taking the hand of the customer with the experiences. So then we are operating everything and we are closing the journey of our customer. Then when we enter inside, the structure is basically a squad structure, more similar what probably you know in the market Spotify and the use case of Spotify did. But basically we have squad with internally a product manager, a product designer, different engineerings, basically front end and back end, because we are mainly web based. Then we don't have data inside the team right now, and then maybe we can talk about all the different type of way to organize the teams. But the data is more like a department that is involved in the different teams. For some teams, quite dedicated; for others, more as a service model. And then we have different type of professionalists. We have UX researchers that are not dedicated to each team, but usually they are following 2-3 teams into the area, because each teams, then each squad is reporting into an area and then into a domain. Okay. That's it, more or less. Just we have product analysts that is more likely in the market. Probably you find them as a business analyst, but with a product view of the thing. So they are helping us to estimate the business value of everything we are doing. And that's it.
Okay. Following this, so if you can explain a little bit more better the relation between the product designer and the product manager, so where and how they collaborate between the two, and
Yeah.
how the UX researcher, of course, gets into the process.
Okay. I will tell you my vision and how we are working, because always everyone have his personal vision of how should work, and then when you fit it into the context, try to move from the by the book to what you are living in reality in the company. There are different things that are basically influencing the situation, but basically my opinion is that the product manager and product designer are looking at the same things with a slightly different view. Like you take the coin and you have the two sides of the coin. More or less, this is the metaphor I'm using to express product manager and product designer. Okay, so let's call them brother and brother, sister and sister, brother and sister, whatever you want, but they are basically need to stay super close. Then there are some differences between them for sure, because product manager is responsible on why and what, and the designer more on the what and how, and they are overlapping a bit into the what. They need to have a clear business context shared. So I don't think that the product designer is just the one like translating into mockups, design and functionality what is the reason why and the problem of the customer, but it's someone that together with the product manager need to understand perfectly everything in terms of quantitative data, in terms of user behavior for sure, but also the market and the business context you are living. So there are different common things that they need to understand equally, in my opinion. Then when you move into the operative part, for sure, there are big differences, right? So when you stay inside the team, even if you are applying Kanban, Scrum, or whatever else, you are basically going more for a product manager into, again, explaining the reason why we're doing things, try to keep pushing on the mission of the teams, and then prioritize and take decision. Instead, the product designer, aligned with that view, is going to make it a reality together then with the engineering team. Okay. Then when we talk about UX researcher, they basically stay more in an horizontal view than in a vertical view, at least in our company. And they are trying to see the problem more at 360 degree instead of like just for the scope of that specific team or that specific feature the team is trying to build. So giving to the team all the information about, I mean, qualitative data, research, interviews, etc., etc. So in an ideal world, I would love to have also a UX researcher inside each team. Then when it turns into reality, it depends a lot in the mindset of the company also, which also influence a lot the way you are doing product inside the company at the end. So those three actors basically are really close together. And if I need to add, they are not just them alone, but also the engineering manager or whoever is more leading the engineering part of the team should stay super close to that, because at the end you are in the center between all the departments inside the company, right?
And considering this relation between the three different players, so how, if you have any example of how you usually go from an idea until the final product or final functionality?
Again, here I have my personal dream, and then in the company is a bit different. No, so I mean, probably I'm going to tell you some really basic stuff, right? I mean, we are trying to approach everything with a feedback loop approach. So the important thing is that before going ahead with everything else, you need to have super clear the problem you you want to solve. Why you want to solve? Because you need to understand perfectly which is the needs and the problem that your customer, that should stay always in the first line of your thoughts when you wake up in the morning, needs. Then you enter in a loop of betting, basically, because until you prove it, until you validate it, you don't know if your hypothesis, your idea is valuable or not for the customer. So usually we start with the UX research. So we set the ground with all the information we need. Then we craft from the problem statement, let's say, we pass through UX research, then we go into the ideation. There is different way in terms of methodology to put on the ground all the hypotheses you have to solve the problem. Then once you have the problem, you need to constantly ask yourself if you are not making so big and you are taking too long to go to the market, because you should stay like as a basic. And again, I'm going to tell you about the MVP, but basically the basic things you think should answer to the need in order to validate that you are in the right way of thinking. So defining the MVP and defining the hypothesis behind, you enter into the loop of testing. Again, here you can use A/B testing, you can use multivariate testing, you can use fake doors. It depends also on the stage of the product you are, right? Because one thing is when you are starting from scratch, so you are trying to build your own company and you identify a need and you are really starting from scratch, or if you are iterating already in a mature product. Independently on the stage you are, the methodology more or less is always the same loop, right? So after the validation, so you have also data to support your hypothesis. You are going to understand if it makes sense to release it or if it doesn't make sense to release it. If it doesn't make sense to release it, you're starting from scratch again, and you are reevaluating what you learned from that, and you are making new hypotheses. Instead, if you are good enough to get it at the first time, which is quite impossible, you can release it, but now you enter in the path of iterating on that, right? Then you need to consider that even if you are iterating, the context around you is constantly changing, the user behavior is constantly changing, the market is constantly changing, evolving, etc. No? So based on that, you constantly need to update yourself first on how your company and your market is evolving together with your customer. And second, try to verticalize all the new hypotheses based on the new context and iterating.
And considering this process, how the stakeholders are involved throughout the development of these of a new functionality or a brand new product?
Yeah, stakeholders usually enter already in the last piece of the loop. So they didn't test anything. They didn't more or less have a 360 overview, because usually they are vertical in their part of the company, but they have always the sensation that they have the solution already, right? So I don't know in We Road if it's happening, but I found this as a quite common behavior during my path in different companies. Anyway, basically, the relationship of stakeholder for me is based on two main things. One is for sure working with them in a way that you are able to influence them. Why I'm saying that? Because being a product manager is probably, first of all, is a suicide. Or you love it, or probably my suggestion is to quit it immediately, right? Because I mean, you are constantly under pressure, you are constantly in the center of everything, you're constantly having people blaming on you, etc., etc. So you need to love it to do it, but basically you are the only one, not having anyone reporting to you, but you need to influence the entire company. Okay, so the soft skill into the product manager are, in my personal opinion, are like 70% on the skill you should have to act as a good product manager. Because at the end, inside the company, everything is based on relationship, and you need to turn those relationship, teaching them that we cannot wake up in the morning with an idea and try to make it, but we should wake up in the morning with an idea, we should validate it, we should check the data, we should ask ourselves which problem we are trying to solve. So first of all, we need to understand the mindset of the company, because I mean, I'm not saying that this is the mantra, but usually they are trying to arrive to you already with everything you should do. The big list of things they desire, right? And they are pushing to have it, to have them. So you need to say no at the beginning, even if they are saying a good things. Usually it's like a door closed. Then you're starting with your soft skill to listen them and to try to understand with them if what they are saying could make sense or not. And then you need to drive with them, always involving them into the process of everything you are discovering, right? So when we talk about discovery and delivery process into the product management, it's not just about product team. It's not just about product design and engineering people doing those two phases. In my opinion, the stakeholder need to be there, need to stay in the loop, need to be conscious on everything you are finding, and then you need to make them thinking that they are deciding, instead you move them to the right decision.
Easy to say, difficult to do. Most of the time. Okay, so before moving on, I just wanted to stop for a second just to see if anyone has any questions, even on this topic or any other topic. As I said, don't be shy. Or if Carlo, do you have any questions?
At least one. I just want one.
Go, grazie.
Okay.
How you could perform these?
So you
Try
mean
to convince. Yes.
How you can succeed in
Yeah.
that? Yeah. You succeed because when you trying to approach any problem with evidence behind, so data, research, qualitative data, etc., you have constantly the reason why you are telling what you are telling, right? Instead, you have in front of you people that have an idea and have a sensation, but they cannot prove it. So when you are in the moment where you put on the table all the stuff, you will always win in that way, right? I mean, if you did your job in the right way, that's for sure is the basic things. But if you have arguments, data, and everything that is proving what you are trying to convince people, I mean, or they have in their side and 99% they don't have it, another strong hypothesis that is completely opposite of yours based on reason, data, etc. Or basically, I mean, it's a bet that you can go all in without any thoughts behind, because I mean, basically you are telling about the evidence, the data, and the data is telling you the truth anyway. Then you cannot promise that you're going to succeed. You are just convincing them that this should be the way to go, but then you need to involve them to prove it. Because if they are start feeling that they are outside of this process, you are fighting. Instead, you need to fight on the bet together with them. So they need to feel part of this. Okay, so it's a combination between soft skill and hard skill, because you are gathering all the information you need to influence, and having them with you. So they feeling part of the problem. They need to feel that they are contributing to the solution you are building. I don't know if I answer you, Grazia.
Yeah, clear. Thank you.
Then those are chit-chatting. Then we need to make it real. And I know that it's a totally different thing, but at least let's try it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Otherwise, there's one that come up regarding research. So how do you share the findings made through the research, and if there's any tools used like personas, scenarios, or any other tools?
How we share? That is a big question, and it depends a lot how you are organized inside the company, right? Based on just talking about the experience I'm living right now, cross-domain is a domain-driven organization. Is basically a functional organization. So the pros, you have that you are more or less autonomous. The cons is that you are creating silos. Creating silos inside the organization means that you can be the most knowledgeable person inside the company for that specific topic, but no one else is exposed to. So, for example, what we are doing, we are working in the tourist industry, so a lot of user research, luckily for us, is happening also in destination. So we are traveling around the world for different use cases. We are conducting all the different things, and then once we are back, we basically try to pack everything together, and we are running different sessions with stakeholders, including ExCo members, so all the people that are also driving the company, let's say, because we want to expose them on two main things. One, on all the findings we have, apart of the fact that we are documenting everything in different tools. We're using Confluence, but everything is well documented and accessible for anyone in the company. But basically, we're running these with the main decision makers inside the company, because we want first that they will be exposed into the findings, because sometimes they are biased, completely biased, because they are managing the company and they are not so close to the user. So they are fully biased on the moment they enter in the company and they are running the business, but the things are changing. So it's important that they are exposed to those things. And second, because in our case, also, it's extremely important that we put also the design as a team and as an activity that design is doing inside the company, like in a super light mode, right? Because sometimes not all the people inside the company are understanding the importance of having a design team and different professionalists and different activities run by the design team. So for us, it's important both ways. Then we have different standard moment. We have a monthly product demo, which we are not just showcasing the result of the different feature we are delivering, but we are also showcasing all the result of the different UX research. And this is open to all the people inside the company, whoever is interested in. And then we have different moments and different ceremonies, because we are trying to also put all the designers close to the stakeholders. So it's not just a product manager going to the stakeholder to talk, to discuss, prioritize, to brainstorm with them, but is usually we always want that the product designer and the product manager go together. So you can apply structured way to do it, finding the right moment. You can do it also by spot during the path. The important things for me is constantly like enable in the company the fact that design is important and let them showcasing things, not always drive by product, because this is usually another mistake that I saw in a lot of companies. So looking at the product manager as the mom of the team, and everything happening, we need to go to the product manager. No, I mean, they are different professionals, equally in the hierarchy, with different responsibility inside the team, right? So whatever you are going to structure, you need to put like the importance of design into the product management department, and you also need to involve the right people. Right people means that you will have audience that could be interested in what you spotted out, but people that need to be there and need to listen what we're finding. And usually from my experience, are decision maker inside the company.
Good. Okay, so any other question? Otherwise, I move on. There are some other topics. No. Okay, so connected to research and how you go from ideation to launch, how do you, for example, manage big releases? So if you can give an example. I know already the example, but I just think you can give one.
I'm also telling myself, if you are managing big releases, probably you are doing it wrong in general, because you should not be in the moment where you are making super big releases. Then big releases for me means also dependencies. So you are not the only one trying to release something, but usually it's a combination of, for example, different product teams into the journey, because what you are trying to deliver is impacting also different other pieces that are not under your responsibility, right? So, I mean, because I don't have the right answer, Jasmine, you know, because anyway, you are trying, every time you are trying to do it in a structured way, at some point you are losing pieces and you are failing somewhere, right? So, or you are going out and basically the entire product is going down, and that's probably everything you did was more or less wrong. Or you are trying to structure a bit different type of process. For example, in our company, we have a big part that contribute to the delivery from the QA engineering team. So this professionalist is inside each team. Again, right now we don't have a QA engineer in each specific team. Usually they are trying to help 2 or 3 team max. But basically, we pass from the moment we were a startup where you are going in production and basically you are praying, till you are scaling up. So you are trying to put more processes and control processes. You have engineering doing random code reviews. You are trying to test with unit tests and then hand-to-hand test how much autonomous you can do it better, how much in an automatic way you can do it better, but at least you have some moment that before going in production, you are more safe, at least trying to highlight possible red lights and address it. Till the moment you have a more solid, robust and structured process where you cannot push in production until the moment you perfectly follow different steps. The different steps, again, are you need to test everything you are doing. Test means unit test for developers, meaning that if they are trying to commit something without unit test, they cannot commit. So they are, don't want to say forced to do that, but I mean, they pushed for that. So I'm assuming that they want to do it. Then an end-to-end test that is mainly driven by the QA engineering and the product manager. So the product manager wants he or she has written the stories with all the acceptance criteria. The QA engineering is building scenario on top of those acceptance criteria. Building scenario means that at least in order to have the green light to go in production, those kind of acceptance criteria need to be reflected into the end-to-end test and need to work. Okay. Then before going in production, we are using different tools like user testing and other things where you are basically trying to make a massive test from real user, giving them the scenario, and it's already connected with the code base. So basically they are spotting out bugs or possible issue. They are reporting the issue in the right way, not like the stakeholder is doing. So how to replicate also the issue they have. And then if we are targeting them with different level of priority, we are for sure trying to address as fast as possible the P1s, let's say, before going in production. Then you run it in production, and also in production, I mean, you have different environments. Okay, so basically test environment, then you have QA, then you have production environment, at least those three. And when you are in production, for sure, I mean, if you are a good product manager and you are driven by passion, I mean, you are not just closing your Mac after the release, but you are obsessed and you are trying to go to see that everything is smooth, and the QA engineering is doing as well the same. And then you monitor by data. So you should have alerts in place and all the different things. And you should monitor also the funnel by quantitative data to understanding the user behavior behind that.
Regarding the post-release, assuming that we are in production, two of the questions that emerge. One is A/B testing. So when choosing to do A/B test and when not. And the other one will be about what happens if a big bug emerges. So which are the steps that you take in terms of communication and in terms of team management. So I will start with the first one on the A/B testing.
Okay. So when you run an A/B test, or let's say you have a problem, you have an hypothesis, and then you enter in how you want to test it, right? And you have different way of doing it. It depends also of the maturity of the product you have behind. It depends also if it's a big bet, and it's about also effort and value estimated, right? When you are trying to put down an hypothesis, I don't know if you have like a template with a structured way to make hypothesis to run any tests you are doing in production. But basically, one of the most important things is to identify the KPI, the North Star metric that you should move thanks to your hypothesis. And based on that, you are also trying to estimate the business value, right? You should know, I mean, in that use case, how much money you are doing. So you should also be able to understand how much and which is the confidence you have in your hypothesis to shift that KPI. Let's take, for example, conversion rate, right? We are talking about e-commerce. You are working also in an e-commerce in tourism industry. So let's bet that fact that you are going to move the conversion rate by X%, that X% is the value that is basically evaluated by the opportunity you have, and this is come from the quantitative data on the funnel you are seeing, okay? The qualitative data, so how much the hypothesis you have is basically answering to the customer need and the competition, okay? So if you are also able through market research, to interviews, or if you have also some friends working in a competitor, could be useful too. Understanding, I mean, how you are comparing what you are doing with what are the results, you also have the feeling on the gap you can cover or not, right? So based on that, you are start trying to make the hypothesis as a high value, medium value, or low value. And this is like a scale that you are deciding. I don't know, low value is 2% conversion rate uplift, medium value is 5 to 8, and high value is more than 10% of conversion rate, okay? So based on that, and based on the confidence you have, and based on the answer you have behind the hypothesis about the data and qualitative and quantitative at the market research, you need to choose. You need to choose to drive an A/B test. Is always a good idea, okay? But sometimes you are in a moment where you have other A/B tests running into the production environment. You are not able to drive multivariate testing because you don't have enough volume in your e-commerce to wait like a lot of time to have the significant result. So then basically you can approach it in other different way. You can approach it like with a fake door, for example, just trying to put something to understand if the customer wants that. So you are gathering data on the basically insight of the behavior of the customer that are trying to click on the action button you have as an objective. so that, but you don't have anything behind. So it's just like a, you know, an empty click, let's call it like that. So you are increasing your confidence, okay? And increasing your confidence means that you can also take the responsibility to anyway go in production and keep all the metrics under control. But then usually when the risk is higher, like you are driving an improvement on the payment step, on the booking flow step, so where the funnel is really too risky, and if you are going in production directly, even if you are in 100 people controlling on a minute base the funnel and the KPIs, if there is something wrong, you are going to lose a lot of money. So when it's a big risk, it's always good to go with an A/B test. When you drive an A/B test, it's not just that you are splitting 50% the entire customer base, but you can also make some thoughts on where drive the A/B test, especially if you are running a business in a multi-country way. If on a percentage of users, so you can release the A/B test on a percentage of users. So they are all consideration that need to be based also on the context you are living, because that, again, you need to, an A/B test usually in, I mean, if you are Google, in 24 hours, you validate it. If you are like a big company, more or less, you are taking 1 week, 2 weeks. It depends, again, on the volume and the channel you are tackling, but more or less, I mean, usually what I saw is a good proxy is 2 weeks time to validate your hypothesis. And in that time, if you have that time and if you have that volume, I mean, it's more or less always good to go. If you don't know how to test it, try to go with an A/B test. What I'm not so aligned with what I just said is it's not always good to go in production and just check the number again. So without properly testing, right? So 80% of the case, you are going to test it in some way. 20% of the case, you can take the risk, but you need to understand that when you are taking the risk, you need to also feel the responsibility of what you are doing. Because as a product manager, you are responsible. As a product team, you are responsible. Then the product manager is the one that probably heard all the stakeholder, all the exco member blaming on him, on her. But the entire product team is failing in that case, or is succeeding as well.
And regarding the bug management parts, so assuming that as I was mentioning before, something serious happens, how do you handle it usually?
Well, if you have something serious, means for me that or you are 100% down, or you have a big bug in a part of your product where you are really losing money, or you have a business risk behind. So in that moment, for me, everyone responsible for that piece should put the pen on the table and immediately go to fix it. Then, honestly speaking, when you got a P1 in production, I mean, should not be, I mean, so usual to have it. So you need to try to put a structure behind to avoid as much as possible to be in that situation. Then another part of professionalism that can help you a lot is the tech support department. Is not, again, something that probably you are going to find in small company where you don't have too much processes and too much actors inside. But when you are living in a corporate or in a scale up, usually you start having a tech support department. Tech support department is the one that are on call, first of all. So they should always be there, even if it's during the night. They are addressing the problem. So they are trying to understand where is the problem and which are the teams accountable for that. They are triaging the problem. So they are trying to put all the information to replicate the problem. And then they are assigning to the right people with the right information the problem you have to address. With this kind of approach, we are drastically reducing the time you are ready to act to solve the problem, right? Because I mean, in our company, every time we have a bug, so if we are going down, I'm losing more or less 500 key every 4 hours of revenue. Okay, so it's 500,000 every 4 hours that we are trying to fix the problem, and it happens just one time this year, luckily, but it happens. So basically, I don't know, because then I have a lot of questions also for you guys, because I'm talking with different things, but I don't know how you are organized, etc., etc. But usually you should have someone in the middle, because otherwise, what's the problem? The problem is that if you don't have this kind of professionalist, usually the responsibility constantly go on the product manager, right? So the product manager should be there, the product manager should answer to stakeholder, the product manager should advise the stakeholder, etc., etc. Instead, you need to try at least to automate as much as possible those processes, having the right professionalists together with you.
Any question, anyone on this or any other topic? I got through all the lists, so whatever other question, or if Carlo, do you have any question for us?
A general question, then you can also answer in the chat, etc. If I understood correctly, just here, there is a mix of professionals, right? So
Correct.
Product manager, product designer, etc., etc. So let's try to write in the chat with high, medium, or low your confidence on your company result and KPIs. So how your business is doing in the market. You are confident or not? You know the KPIs or not, the data behind? I cannot ask direct question, right? Otherwise, I can ask, tell me if everyone knows the conversion rate of your e-commerce. Tell me if everyone knows the revenue of your business today.
Okay, just if they know in general the KPIs that our business is moving. Yeah. Okay.
Confident, Simone. Simone Basso, you are a product manager or
CPTO?
Okay.
It doesn't count. He knows different tricks.
Okay.
I was about to say I'm probably the only one that knows that really, really well. It's something that I know. Actually, something that I was talking right now with the rest of the exec team.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Confident, but I don't have enough comparison data. Okay, CTPO, you're confident. Okay. The other one, I'm not answering. I'm not answering because it's low and you don't want to write it, right? You can keep it for yourself, but it's a usual common behavior, guys. Why? Because sometimes, or don't want to say always, but we are quite close to always, you are running the day-by-day job, right? The day-by-day job is putting you basically in a loop where you are doing your job every day and you don't have a moment where you are stop a bit yourself and start reflecting on what you are doing, okay? And this is extremely important. Why? Because otherwise you are just delivering things. If you are not stopping a bit yourself to understand the reason why you are doing things, and you are convinced about that, because that is the second big step for a product professionalist, even if you are product designer, product manager, whatever. So if you don't know and you don't have all the information and all the answer on why you are doing something, probably you are not doing your job correctly. And it's not a fault of the company, it's not a fault of your manager, it's not a fault of someone else. It's a fault about you. Then, Simone, I hopefully we have a super transparency about the data and access about the data, etc., inside the company, but I really believe so. But then it's really your responsibility understanding exactly all the key performance metrics about your company and translating them on your daily job. If you don't know the reason why, if you don't know the impact you are delivering, you are just doing a job. Except if you are doing it for the salary at the end of the month. But this probably, Jasmine, you can cut it from the video.
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Is anyone having questions, curiosity, doubts, something that we didn't touch throughout these questions?
Maybe someone that is not Simone, tell me a bit how you are organized. Simone, I do it for, not because I don't want to hear for you, but.
Don't worry. I don't take it
Just
personally.
Anyone
it
trying
doesn't
to
count to
explain
me
to me?
because I'm asking questions, so I'll keep myself out.
Danilo, you wrote that you're confident, so maybe you can try to help me understanding the organization.
Of the whole team?
Yeah, how you're structured into the product and tech organization, which teams or which professional is.
Yeah, sure. Let's say that it depends on how deep do we want to go on this topic, actually.
Let's say to the structure.
Okay. Just to be sure, the structure of the tech team, or how do we approach also the stakeholders and other teams?
No, the structure of the product organization. So, how many teams do you have? How you are split by teams?
Okay. Yeah.
Which professional do you have inside the teams?
So basically, just talking about the tech team in the beginning. Wait, that's the busy road. Okay. And so we are just like a simple organization. We have kinda independent teams that work on specific projects. I say kinda because like we will need more probably UI and UX figures to really be independent, because right now we have two UI UX designers that are shared across all the projects. So I don't know if they help the marketing team too. I don't know this, but it would be nice to have more of them. And then inside each team, we have a PM and team lead that work together along with the product and the business to understand their needs and the solutions we can find and develop to approach those needs and issues. So it's really a two-man jobs along with the product. So it's not like we have the task and we tell them to the team, but we need to understand what the business needs and what are the pain points. And I would say this is also a long path, because when we started, it was kind of different and we were not into so much the understanding of the business at team level. Also because we hired all the PM like a year and a half ago, so we are going there, and that's still a bit of road to do. And then we just understand what are their needs, and we communicate them with the team. We understand what are the issues and how can we approach them, and what are our solutions also to reach our goals. So not just focusing on what can we do, but why we do that, and what are the final results that we are bringing to the whole company. And then just inside the team, we have several front-end and back-end developers, and maybe in some teams we have also full-stack developers, depending of the project need. And that's it. That's a great view of the team. And about the whole company, I would say that we have, of course, the customer care the customer care team, the marketing team, the buyer team, and the travel designer team. it's kind of complex going that way. And because I don't really know how much they approach each other and how they work together. So it's kind of gray area that we need to explore more. But yeah, this is mainly our team, and of course we have the DevOps team that help us every day with infrastructure, improving how do we approach also our development process. And
DevOps is always a blocker, right? No, I'm joking. I mean, in every company I work, we have a blocker from
it
that.
depends. Sometimes they are our savior.
Yes, for sure. Absolutely.
And let's see if Roberto Dori is here. No, okay, so I can talk about them freely because it's the DevOps team lead. Yeah, it's an opportunity. And
okay. So you are split in more or less demand and offering, right? In tour design for me, it's more like that you are packaging everything and you are creating the offer just, and then you have more the demand team. No,
more or less. We are four teams. One is called TUM, taking care of content part, so content management, website before the checkout, and the user area. Then there's another team called Boot2 that takes into consideration checkout, payment, and then the other way around, so the back of the booking creation for the back office part. A third team, which is the one led by Danilo and Simone, I guess is not here, was taking part everything about coordinators, including also the partner portals, which means everything coming from, say, external partners. And the last one is Saitama, that I guess Robbie is here, who's helping with the structure of the travels. So the real structure of the itinerary. So more or less we are divided, yes, sort of demand and supply.
Okay. Do you have any other questions, topics?
Come on, go.
Thank you. Hi, nice to meet you, Carlo. So I have a question. It's kind of loaded question, but I was interested in your opinion about, as Danilo explained earlier, we have the structure where the PM and team lead does the analysis of a future of a project, right? So being in the technical part, there is sometimes when we have like 2 to 3 features aligned, and sometimes you have this thing where it's like how can I call it? It's like a bottleneck when you have to explain. They have to, like the project manager and the PM have to take all the analysis and then feed us to us, which we are the technical part. And usually when you have like a lot of features to manage, you need to probably, even though the analysis is written good, you need probably to ask a lot of questions to have the idea of what is actually happening in the real part. Because when you are in the technical aspect, so you have to write code, usually you are more focused on the technical part than the analysis parts, right? So how do you manage to explain the technical part exactly to make us able to write the code in a precise way, and also to respond to the demand of the stakeholders? Do you had in your experience this kind of bottleneck issue, or it's just my?
No, I mean the relationship between product manager, product designer, and engineering part is a never-ending story, right? I mean, they are like dog and cats every time. So I mean, they have different way to organize themselves. But let me ask you some question before answering to your question. How many professionals? So how big are the teams?
Well, usually in our team we are 4. So we have backend, frontend, the PM, and the team lead. We are I think the smallest team, I believe, and usually like we manage. The idea that we manage by asking a lot of questions, but usually sometimes it became redundant to ask more and more questions. So there's, I was asking if there's a straight way to that. Like right now we are trying something that we have a big chunk of analysis, and to give us the opportunity to analyze further the future, we write our subtasks and tasks and all the workflows that we have to manage ourselves. So that's this will help us, and we find it really like, for me personally, I find it really interesting as an
You
approach.
are also tasking the analysis.
Yeah, task and analysis ourselves. So I found it as an approach.
Good.
I found it really helpful to understand
That's super
the
good.
workflow. That's
super good.
That's our solution to the problem. I was asking if you have any other opinions or any other solutions to the issue.
Well, at the end, trying to leverage on relationship, it's always difficult, right? So we arrive more or less at the same conclusion. So anytime you are spending your time as a professionalist inside a team, a product team, these need to be tasked for sure. Because if you are developing or if you are running an analysis, anyway, you are contributing to create a value, right? In the short, mid, or long term, usually short term, because we should deliver value as soon as possible as a matter. But then the tasking approach for me is one of the approach that is working better. The important thing is that you have the product manager with you that will express the importance of those things to the stakeholders, because usually the situation you are in that sense is, right, I mean, we have 2 weeks sprint and you are taking 2 weeks to make an analysis. Really, guys? All this type of approach from external people of the organization. So I mean, one thing is tasking, yes, cool. You cannot expect that the product manager will not challenge you, because the product manager as a skills should have a super good technical understanding, a super good design understanding, and a super good business understanding. So should be the actor that can challenge you, right? Because in my personal experience, I also have, because it's based on your behavior, right? How much you are confident, how much you are worried about what you're doing, etc., etc. So sometimes we are not finding the right solution just because we go too straight, etc., etc. So having time to analyze need to be expressed in the work you are doing. So good. Second thing is to be open, to be challenged. To be challenged is not just a matter of I mean, blaming on people or trying to always put like obstacles during the path, but it's because it's moving people thinking on the problem they're trying to solve, right? Then there is the big expectation and your responsibility from a technical point of view to express the effort and the time we will need to deliver that kind of piece. And you need to be super sure that the product manager instead pass you the value we are going to create. Because at the end, you told it at the beginning, the developer is not just someone that is writing the code, right? The developer is one actor inside the product team responsible of the mission of the team, equally as the product manager and the product designer, right?
I agree, exactly.
So, I mean, tasking is the way we are applying also in our case right now, with a big part of, let's say, push to stakeholders to understand that we need it. Also, when there is a big complexity behind, because you can tell me that for sure you are delivering things. In the other hand, your technical depth is growing like crazy, right? So
What we manage right now, like we are managing good. right now.
I will ask the
I
question
won't
in 6
complain.
months.
I'm not complaining. No, I'm sure we are going to manage.
Okay. Anyway, I mean, you need to balance, because technical debt plus the complexity, so the product evolution and all the things you are adding to the product is making the product much more complex. Being much more complex means that anytime you need to drive something or you need to deliver something, you are touching more and more things, and you have dependency, and you can build the perfect feature on your side, but you are broken everything on other teams, on other parts of the funnel, right? So it's really important that you take all the time needed to properly analyze what you have to do.
Sometimes the issue is like the product team and also the stakeholders with the tech lead takes like 3 to 4 weeks, for example, even 2-3 weeks to analyze a future, which is a good thing. But the idea is that when the future arrives to the technical part, usually you have 2 to 3 days to understand it. And having 2 to 3 days to understand the future and then start to working on it, it's because at the end of the day you have to release more features. At the end of the day you have to make the job worth it. Otherwise, we're not doing
simply
exactly.
Simply this is happening simply because the development team is right now in just the last part of the chain, which is not a good thing. So you should be at the beginning with the product manager and the product designer crafting and understanding all the different analysis.
But there
right?
is another issue in that, because you have a small team. Usually when you have a small team, we cannot all stay in the part of the analysis. Otherwise we have like we work on parallel futures. So for example, if the product manager analyzes a future, we are working on another one that we have to release. So otherwise the chain will block. If you are all in the same part in analyzing the future, it's like we are not doing nothing, but actually so we find an understanding in our team. So we're working on it. I just was curious to understand if you have encountered this kind of loaded questions.
No, I mean, in different situation I was there. Simply, I mean, to just give you an example in the market, this is the typical issue when you have the 2 pizzas approach of Amazon. Okay, 2 pizzas approach in terms of product team structure means that the team is composed by a number of people that can be fed just with 2 pizzas. Okay, otherwise, if you have too many people inside the team, you are going to not be so efficient, let's say. Okay, so this principle is based to say less people you have in the team, more velocity you have, more effectiveness you have, and more fast you are into delivering. Yeah, the American pizza are bigger, so you can fit more people there, definitely. Yes, I mean that's always the answer you find. But Amazon itself, after years applying this methodology, they didn't apply just on the product teams. They are applying this to the entire company. I mean, after years, they clearly said that the approach of less people is not the answer of the productivity of a good product team. So then you are probably in a situation where you have been asked to be super efficient, with a super good velocity, and to deliver everything in the perfect way, but inside the team you don't have that capacity in the meaning of the right people to drive that amount of work. Okay, so here for me there is 3 options, because the last one is always when you are going to ask your boss to have more people inside the team, and the answer typically is no. At some point will arrive, but no. So you need to try to be efficient with what we have. So the approaches are asking the product manager to craft better the priorities, because probably you are receiving too much things, right? And second approach could be to reserve part of the time in each sprint already into the estimation for the analysis and for this part, and have a super good ceremonies with the team. I don't know if you are working in Scrum, in Kanban, or whatever, but I mean, if you are driving in the right way the ceremonies with the team, and if you are already putting on top of the time you are estimating in each sprint 20% of the time that will be dedicated for extras means analysis, bugs, requests coming at the last second, etc. And in the same time, you are more at the beginning of the process and not just receiving when the what and the how is already decided. Those are the three things that can help you having better performance inside the team. Then a team of 4 people for sure is not a big team. Usually a good product team that balance productivity, velocity, and efficiency is around 8-10 people with different professionalism. Then it's becoming too much.
Thank you. Clear.
Okay. If there's any other question, otherwise
We can.
we can't. So thank you everyone for being here, and thanks also Carlo for your time spent with us. And
Thank you, Carlo.
Thank you, guys. And
Thank
if you have any other question or you want to chat, whatever, you have my email and you can write me wherever you want. Va bene? È stato un